I'm sitting here in my office, which is on the 8th floor in Brooklyn here in fire headquarters. And it's just one floor above where I was 19 years ago on September 11, 2001. And it faces what was the World Trade Center and is now the new tower and area that was rebuilt. And I've always said, when talking to people about this, when late summer comes, and when that's what we're in, as I'm talking to you now, we're in mid-August. I think most of us who have a very close experience with 9/11 start to feel edgy as we know the anniversary is coming up. It's an anniversary we don't celebrate, it's an anniversary we observe. So soon we will be observing the 19th anniversary. You frequently hear the words, never forget. Sometimes we wish we could forget some of the things that happened that day, but that's impossible. So I think never forget those we lost. To complete that sentence is better, and that's for sure. Those people deserve to be remembered, not just on each anniversary, but every day for what they did and what they suffered through. So for me, we came into what that morning would be a regular day at the office for us in the fire department. And we just completed the chiefs and Chief Gansey and I was chief of operation. I was his second in command in 2001. And Donald Burns and Jerry Barber and some others, we finished our morning conference, and we're just about to get down to work when the building shook, and we could actually see the smoke coming from the Twin Towers, from the North Tower. And we rushed out of the building to respond. And on the way there, coming over the Brooklyn Bridge, I rode in the car with Pete Gansey. I did say to him, this will be the worst day of our lives, looking up at what happened. And that was after the North Tower was hit and the South Tower was not even yet hit. And it was, in fact, the worst day of our lives, and the last day for almost 3,000 people in New York and Washington and Shanksville. So it was a day like no other for the fire department. We had hundreds of members on the ground in the buildings. Our job was to evacuate whoever was left in the towers, try to get up to the floors that were burning and get safe passage for those folks. We tried very hard, evacuate people out of the hotel. As the South Tower came down, we lost many people there, and not long after, the North Tower, that was the first hit, the second to come down. That's when Chief Gansey was killed. It was, at the time, we had no idea how many members we lost, how many people were lost. We knew it would be, I think Mayor Giuliani had said it was some number that was just hard to comprehend before the actual count was made. And it took us a while to gather all that information, and we found out that 343 members of our department were among the close to 3,000 killed. And that was a blow. Previous to that, the department's greatest loss of life was in 1966 on 23rd Street, when 12 brave members of the department perished. It was an incomprehensible number of people, friends, close associates. The department had its greatest day on its worst day. You could say that, you know, the nature of what we do is to try to save people, and that's what we did. And in the process, of showing the greatness of the department, we suffered our greatest loss. And it was a loss that that afternoon, when the realization came to me that I would be the chief, because Chief Gansey had died when the North Tower came down. I really had no idea how we would respond to it, how we would come back as a department, how it would be able to function. But I underestimated probably the greatness of the department, because we did. And we never stopped working on that, at that site, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until the very end of May 2002, when we got down to the bottom of that, what was left of that 17-acre site, and could do no more, searching for those we lost. And we, in a dignified manner, left the site. It was, of course, you know, the worst day I could have ever had, any member in this department had. The sorrow that lingered around the department still exists. There's fewer and fewer members of the department around that were around then, as we're taking in members now who have no recollection of 9/11. They were too young. And you think about it, you know, no one in school today, if you're in high school, college, you would be either not born or be too young to really remember what happened on that day. So it is important that we who do remember tell our stories to those who can't, who don't, because our stories are really the stories of the heroes that entered the building. Many of them, especially our more experienced members, knew that there was a possibility that they would not come out alive, and yet no one, refused to do their job that day. People actually came down there who were off duty, responded down there to help who weren't even responsible to be there. So they went above and beyond on the morning of 9/11. So it's a tough time of year for us, for those of us who have survived it. We'll have a ceremony here at headquarters for the headquarters personnel that we lost that day. We have a ceremony a few days before 9/11 for we're adding 27 more names to our wall for people who died subsequent to 9/11 from the diseases of working there. To date, the department has lost 226 members post 9/11, on top of the 343 we lost that very morning. So the department continues to suffer. The members of the department and their families continue to suffer because of this attack. And while I think we've all had good days over the past 19 years, we've had marriages of children and births of grandchildren and happy times, there is always in the background in our lives is the sadness of 9/11. It just becomes part of your life. So at this time of year, we'll get through it, and we'll get through it proudly and strongly. And next year, of course, will be the 20th anniversary. Not that 1 year makes a difference, but of course there are certain milestones that are recognized a little bit more. So I think hopefully we'll be out of the pandemic by then, and the department can do things as we formerly did. This year, some of our celebrations, some of our observations of the holiday, of the event, will be somewhat subdued because of needing to social distance, etc.
That day, so many wives of FDNY'ers tell me that the frustration of not knowing if their husband or their wife was safe or not. How were you able to let your family know that you were okay, or were they in that same situation, not knowing if you were still with us or not?
It took a while to, our cell phone service was, those of us who had cell phones, was very sketchy for some period. After the towers came down, the cell phones were not working. I was able to have someone make a call for me from a landline at some point after the towers came down and get a message to my wife, who was working at the time. So she had some amount of time where she didn't know where I was, knew I'd be there, but was uncertain. And there was only, of those who perished, initially, we didn't find too many. So there was really, for quite a long period, people wondering, they hadn't heard from their loved one. Could they be in a hospital? Could they? It was a very disturbing time for us, for the families. Some families thought, because their loved one wasn't working, they were safe. But then they found out later that they went in anyway and had perished. So it was a tough time.
Of the 343 FDNY'ers we lost that day, how many of them have the remains been identified? Do you know?
I believe it's just over half. There's still quite a number that are unaccounted for. They're, I think there's some solace for some families to have, but I've always felt, people go to war and they're at sea and they're lost, they're never recovered. The family has their memory, is what they have, is the main thing, the spirit of that person, the soul. The remains aren't the person anymore. The person is the essence of who they are.
I have to ask you, with so many FDNY'ers still suffering and continuing to suffer from the health effects of the toxins, the dust, how's your health? Are you okay?
I have some ill effects of it, but I have to say I can't complain because I'm still standing, and I'll be 72 years old soon, and I've done okay. But I think anyone that was down there has their health has been compromised by it, and this past year, every 2 weeks approximately, a member of this department, a past member of the department, has died due to their work down there. And that will continue and continue and continue for many years to come.
The other story that I hear over and over and over again from the wives, is that after experiencing and living through 9/11, they tell me their husbands have never been the same because of PTSD. Has that impacted you at all?
Well, perhaps more so in the immediate aftermath, the year following, a year while we were working down at the site. And at this time of year, each year, as I said, I think as as the anniversary gets closer and you find yourself maybe to be occasionally short-tempered or edgy, or that's when it kicks in for me, because I know the events are coming up, and returning to the site on a few different occasions during that week, it brings back what happened. So I think I'm thankful again that I'm fine in that regard, and I've been able to, with great support from my family and those around me, that I'm doing fine.
Experiencing your losses, your own personal losses, your professional losses on 9/11, and now being FDNY commissioner, but having survived and seen what you saw, has that changed the way you view life?
Well, I think you certainly realize that things can change in a moment. We kind of always knew that in the fire department. We've been at fires and emergencies where people were killed, and you have that realization that what can start off as a nice, beautiful day like today is in New York, a beautiful sunny morning. 9/11, 2001 was a beautiful day, can end very, very differently for very unusual reasons. No one expected terrorists to fly two enormous planes into the Twin Towers, and yet they did. So perhaps you at least try to take life as it comes, one day at a time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, just to the families, of course, that lost loved ones. As always, you will think of them most of all on 9/11, and how they were, I always feel I was able to, see my two daughters married and see my grandchildren born, and they weren't, some of them. So our hearts go out to who was left behind, and thank them for their courage and support over the years.
Thank you, Commissioner. And stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thanks.